You know, one of the worst things about being in this position is feeling that emptiness in your soul, feeling like there's something missing, feeling like there's something that should be there inside your heart, inside your soul, but it's just a void. And this void is just all the events you've been through in your life, all the negativity, all the pain, all the isolation, all the desolation, everything that stopped your dreams and stopped your ambitions. And you feel this weird feeling when you see people living a normal life with the girlfriend or with the wife, with the kids, and things like that. A part of you kind of pities them because it's like they have something in this world. They have many attachments inside this world. They got a wife, they got kids, and that just adds more stress and worry because you got to worry about maybe if some crazy person comes to the school and does the unthinkable. What if your wife is cheating on you with her, if your wife's a secretary, she's cheating on you with her boss because he's a more powerful man and he's a Chad, and he can make her life better, supposedly, and there's just more worries than if you're just a single guy by yourself. You don't really got to worry. You just got to worry about keeping your mind right, getting some money, getting some food, and just making sure that, you don't snap and you don't break in this crazy condition that we find ourselves in. This position that we find ourselves in is not really a normal position. It's a crazy position. It's a weird position. It's a terrifying position. And it's something that it's like its own hell within the hell. And when you're a melanated person, it does add to it. That's just the facts of reality, man. And the psychological ramifications of this needs to be studied of men who go a long time without having a girl in their life, men that go a long time being depressed, being stressed, and not blessed, you know. Because if there is a God, he certainly blesses only certain people, and other people he just tells them to screw off, and that's just the way of the demiurge for his loose harvesting. And we already know that's the false God anyway, so that's not the real true Father God. That's the false God, the demiurge. But sometimes I just really feel like, when I see all these negative things going on in the world and I see people crashing out, because I know you guys know about that one crash out. I just can't talk about it because you know how YouTube is, with stuff like that when it's fresh. It's not even worth it. But, that one guy that crashed out, and then there was another guy that crashed out at a parking lot or whatever. And I think they arrested his father or something like that. And I think they gave his father 15 years in prison, which is interesting because his father knew that he was having mental trouble. Even the FBI came to the house or whatever. And the father found notes and all that. And the father still bought him a weapon or whatever. And it just turned to other chaos. It's horrible. Like this world is always filled with horrors. There's always something going on that's negative. And then the news just always promotes that. Like the news wants to promote the negative so much. And then you hear about somebody's like, oh, I discovered how to turn, um, water into like a freaking into like a car type of gasoline or whatever, and now we don't need the regular oil from the gas station or whatever. And the next thing you know, that person ends up missing. Somebody finds a cure for cancer or whatever, or they find some type of supplement, some natural remedy, and then the next thing you know, they're gone. And it's like, wow, and it's just then you find out about the CIA has a whole like a psychological division. They have a whole assassination division, like the Central Intelligence Agency. They're just agents of the demiurge, pretty much. And they just keep secrets hidden from the people and the masses. It's absolutely disgusting and distrusting how this world is. When you really look at it, when you look at the bigger picture, it looks like a prison that's designed to just make you feel like you like you don't matter. I know a lot of us we may suffer from low self-esteem. We may suffer from insecurity issues. We may think like we're great enough. And I'm here to tell you that those emotions are exactly what feeds the archons. So try your best to get out those emotions. If you're jealous of somebody, try your best not to be jealous. Just try to do your own thing. Maybe that path is not for you. Maybe you got another path that's for you. Maybe your path is a different path if you just, stop being a hater. Like, you know, and for this world, you're going to always encounter toxic people, toxic personalities, but it's how you deal with these toxic personalities that kind of, help you keep your mind in a way. Because it's like this world, let's say you go to work or whatever, and you have a boss that's just, thinking that he can't get his ass whooped, and thinking that, and just talking to you any type of way. As a grown man, you want to, you want to just show respect and get respect. You're there, you haven't yelled at him, when he wants to raise his voice at you and get smart and snarky with you in the morning. And it's like, bro, just chill, like just chill out, because stuff can get real, real quick, and it's like the demiurge would like do something to you, make you already in a bad mood, and all of a sudden put the boss in a bad mood, and you just snap one day and boom, you sock him in the face. Boom, you hit him in the face, you break his nose. Boom, now they're gonna try to arrest you for assault. Because now because at the job they have all your information at the job, so they come and arrest you. You can't run, you get arrested. And now you get arrested and that guy files, charges against you. But he was the one that started it. He was the one that was talking crap and doing all that stuff. You were minding your business. But when you put your hands on him and broke his nose, now he wants to play the victim. Well, he put his hands on me and hit me. And it's like, you started it. Why would you go poke a lion and then you get bitten and then you blame the lion? It makes no sense, and this is what I'm talking about in this world. It's just the most wicked, disgusting spirits. It's just some of the most wicked, evil parasites you can ever imagine. And it's no coincidence that we find ourselves usually around these type of beings, or these beings trying to interact with us or trying to parasite off of us. It's ridiculous. You know, this is why I say, man, try to find your hobby, try to find something to keep your mind right and keep your grind tight, and try to believe in your talents. Even if your talents are small, even if you don't have that much talent, I understand, man, but try to just keep your mind occupied, because in this situation, coping is, what else do we have besides the cope? You know, we got to cope and focus on our money, though. We got to find our money, 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 money. We got to try to get money. Money is the top prioritization for a guy trapped in this situation. So we have to remember, we have to remember that. And we have to understand to treat ourselves. This is something that I think I talked about in a previous video, but once a month, get your favorite food. Hell, maybe even twice a month or 3 times a month if you can afford it. But get your favorite food, you know, go to the restaurant, whatever, however you get it, get your favorite food and indulge. Be happy. Try to treat yourself. Get your favorite video game. Watch your favorite anime, you know, and do something that, like, at least for an hour, that's just good for you, good for your mind. Do something for you. You had a stressful day at work. You had a stressful day just in reality. You just had a stressful day being a NEET, because believe it or not, NEETs have stressful days. People think because somebody stays in the room all day that they don't have stressful days. Yeah, you have those days when you're facing your demons, you're facing isolation. You don't even want to look at videos no more. You throw your phone across the room and you stare into the black void or the darkness in your room, and maybe the TV light or the computer light is on, and you just feel depressed. You feel miserable. You feel worthless. You feel like you don't have a purpose. Like, I've been through all of that, bro. I was a NEET for a decade. I know all the emotional fluctuations of being a NEET. I know it all. I know about those battles and those struggles. You know, you know, we really have to maintain in the brain. We really have to stay strong in this situation, because the world doesn't really care about our emotions. It doesn't care about our dreams. It doesn't care about our aspirations or whatever that we want to do. The world just cares about whether we're going to be a useful tool for it, and if not, it'll break us. That's one thing about this world. If you're like, they train people to be tools, just like artificial intelligence robots, But then when the real artificial intelligence robots come, they throw the humans away, and now it's just going to be a future of just robots, literally. And people think these robots and this artificial intelligence integration is a good thing, but how is it a good thing if it's taking away people's jobs, not enhancing people's jobs and making their lives better? How is that a good thing? It's not a good thing. It's a horrible thing. The future is going to be a scary thing, for a lot of us. But a lot of us that already know how terrifying it's going to be, we're going to be a little bit more shielded mentally, but not totally. you know. But for guys like us, just staying away and isolating yourself, that's really the best thing you can do. Especially if you're in a toxic environment, especially if you're like in a war zone or an environment that's not conducive for your mental health. The best thing you can do is just stay away from negativity, stay away from negative people, stay away from drama starters, stay away from gossipers, people always talking and gossiping about somebody and doing this. Stay away from people like that. That's all low demonic energy. That's lower vibrational frequency energy. Those souls are damned and doomed to be tormented by Abaddon. We got to let go of all that foolishness so we can have our souls light enough to raise up to the paroma so we can match the frequency of the divine. You know, we got to let go of all the evil, negative attachments and start focusing. Like I've been getting deep into meditation, and letting go all anger, letting go all pain and all of that. Like I've been trying to let it go, but of course it's still there, and I got to focus it maybe on music or something creative. But I try to let go of all of it and just meditate and focus, and it's done wonders for it's done wonders for my mind in a bit, where it's like you just don't care about anything anymore. Like, right? You just don't care. You just don't care. Like all the negativity, you just stay focused on your goals and you stay focused on what's going to bring you the success. But I know for guys like us, it just seems like life keeps, just beating you down. And no matter how hard you try to just raise up, there's always something. There's always something around the corner. There's always something to bother you. There's always something to mess with you. There's always some negative thing that's going on in this world. And it's absolutely brutal and it's ridiculous. But we got to stay strong and we got to keep on going on. Even though sometimes it's difficult, man. Those rich kids that have families that care about them, those rich kids that got families that help them out, help them get cars, help them get jobs, get them homes or their first apartments, or they got money, or they get to work at their uncle's company or they work at their dad's company. They never really have to struggle. They don't have to struggle about paying rent or paying bills or finding a place to live or trying to make money. They can just, do whatever they want. And you see how happy some of those people are. But then you have some of those people that are quote unquote miserable. And it's like they're miserable only because they don't have a purpose. They have all the money in the world but no purpose. But people like us who are broke, but we have a purpose, all we need is all the money in the world so we can make our purpose be known. But the people who have all the money and I'm talking about not like the Illuminati people, but like rich kids or whatever, they don't really have a purpose. What's their purpose besides just being rich and enjoying it? People like me, we're coming with a purpose. And our purpose is, certain things. We got to be careful what we say, right? But our purpose is for people to be united and for people to escape the soul trap matrix and escape the demiurge, and all of his evil and wickedness. Yeah. But it seems every single day, it just gets more egregious. It gets more wicked. It gets more twisted. It gets more sadistic. It's like it's a battle. Every single day it's a battle. Every single day you gotta go through some type of hell. You gotta go through some type of trial and tribulation. Every day. Every day. Some days you may have a day, okay, this day was cool, so this day was okay. Like, okay, this was kind of a peaceful day. I mean, it was a little something here and there, a little annoyance, but for the most part, this was a cool day. You may have a couple of days like that. But for the most part, that's just the demiurge making sure you get your happiness back up, just so when the pain comes again, he can lose more negative energy out of you. That's the truth, and you see the cycle. You don't gotta listen to me. Just look at the cycle of life. Good things just kind of happen a little bit, then the bad things happen. But the bad things always hit the hardest than the good things. Notice the good things don't last as long as the bad things. The bad things last longer than the good things. Think about when you eat your food and you're full. Eat your food, especially nowadays when they don't even put the right nutrients in the damn food. They put all this chemical composition poison in the food. But think about when you eat. You eat and you're full and you're satisfied. Then a few hours later, you're hungry. You're like, damn, and it gets annoying. But that's just the way it is. And there's always this cycle of destruction in this world. You look at a flower, and in its prime, the flower is beautiful. The flower, it blows in the wind. It shines with the sunlight, you know. But eventually that flower starts to turn, you know, it starts to degrade. It starts to slowly fade away, and then it just becomes a slump, and then it just turns into nothingness. Everything in this world, if you notice, is always in a constant movement of decay. Like it's always in a state of decay. Everything always needs to be restored, or a restoration project or something. You know, whether it's the roads, whether it's the damn economy, whether it's our minds, whether it's our souls, everything needs to be restored. Everything is constantly being depleted. Everything is constantly being drained. Every single day that you breathe, you're one step closer to the last time you'll ever breathe in this dimension and in this body, in this timeline. Remember, this timeline and this brain that we have right now is unique. We'll never ever have these bodies that we're in again. We'll never have this exact mindset. We'll never be in this exact timeline. Just like people 400 years ago, that past is gone. It'll never be back again. It's gone forever unless you can time travel. But for the most part, the life we're living right now will never happen again. The way we think, the people that were, because even if we do get reincarnated, we're going to be in a totally different body and a totally different timeline. That timeline could be the next 200 to 300 something years, or some of us even more, you know, because a reincarnation takes it's a process to. You down, So it's brutal, but we got to take that into consideration as well. This is why I want to leave art. This is why I make so many videos, because one day I'm not going to be able to make videos anymore. One day I'm going to be gone forever. And these videos will be my audio logs of my mind and how I thought. And this would be like one of the only things left of me. So I suggest you guys leave something behind because, well, if you want, because, some people don't. Some people just like, whatever. I don't care if people never knew I existed. But I understand. It's just that certain things about the demiurge or whatever, I want that to live on, because I believe that's the truth. I believe that we are divine beings trapped in this flesh and we're being tormented and tortured because there's a jealous God who somehow got his hands upon us and he shows us no mercy or regards and he makes sure that we go and get obliterated, so it's God, is stressful to be in this position, man. It's funny that just having some money, I'm talking about real life changing money, how that would make it would take away a lot of pain and make life like almost feel right. But then, even then, it's temporary because then they're gonna be like, okay, no more cash money or no more of this electric stuff. Now you gotta get a neural chip, a neural chip integration, plant integration, whatever the fuck, they're gonna plant that in your brain or something. And it's like, okay, now I'm cool. I don't know. I don't want to be rich no more, But then they're like, you can't buy, eat, sell, or do anything without having that chip, you know? They're like, well, the Bible talks about that. Yes, the Bible was the damn guide map. The Bible was made by the demiurge. So, of course, some of the things in the Bible, are going to be true. Yes, the God who made the realm is the demiurge, the God of the Bible. So, of course, he's going to know what he wants to do, you know? That this whole world is just a script. All this evil, all this wickedness is carefully controlled chaos. There's something that's governing this. There's something that benefits off of us being in these desperate, horrible situations where we don't have any power at all, where our lives are just miserable and it just seems like the pain never ends and it's never going to end. And it really gets frustrating and it gets annoying and it gets irritating when you just know that no matter how hard you try, you're probably still going to be in the same position. No matter how many degrees, how many corporations you like, because if you have to work for a corporation, you're screwed because they control how much money you get paid. But if you have a business and you have like a growing entrepreneurship skills and attributes, that can always expand indefinitely, infinitely. You have a better chance of becoming a multimillionaire with your own business than working for a corporation, because a corporation, it's designed to make you it's designed to make you an employee, not an employer. They don't want their employees to be competition. They want their employees to be obedient workers and servants. And an obedient servant will never become a millionaire. To become an entrepreneur, you got to take risks. You got to take deadly risks. You got to take foolish, stupid risks that most people are like, why didn't you just do this? You got to take those risks where people be like, oh, that was crazy. That was dumb that you did that. You got to take those risks because everybody who made it took risks like that, you know? No one ever became, well, that's not true. A lot of people became billionaires without taking risks. Like some of these YouTubers, they just uploaded a video and boom, they blew up overnight because there's some industry plant. But legitimate people, they have to take risks. Like there were some YouTubers that really came from nothing, that really had to quit their day job and try to do YouTube full time. And that was a risk and that was a gamble. And there was times they probably couldn't even pay their rent, but they still believed in themselves and eventually it paid off, you know. But that's not a story that's guaranteed for everybody. For guys in this position, we know what it is. You can still try your hardest and still fail. You can try your hardest and never prevail. That's just the way this world works. And it makes you go berserk, it really does. Because how can you even love an environment like this? An environment that's not an environment that doesn't want you to be successful, an environment that frowns on your success, an environment that doesn't want you to have anything. This is just not right. This world and how it's designed is just it's chaotic and it's evil. We deserve to be happy and we deserve to have peace. Damn it.